Welcome back to Crime Besties to another episode 47, Meg. We're nearly at the 50.
We were asking last week if people have got suggestions for what they would like us to do for episode 50. So keep them coming in. We'd love to get your opinion on what you'd like to do for that number 50.
Yep.
It's a special one.
It's going to be a big one. So you can DM us on Instagram or send us a message through Facebook, or you can send us an email at twocrimebesties, all one word, @gmail.com.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to heaaring everyone's suggestions, actually.
Yeah, really intrigued what people... I love the suggestions people coming because today's episode is a suggestion one too, or from a listener. We're going to do the Claremont Murders today, nudes. We're here. We're ready for it. She's asked, I reckon, 100 times at least.
At least.
So we've actually
nudes,
got here.
We are dedicating this one to you.
Dedicated to you.
Thank you for your suggestion. Look, this is such an iconic case, I think, in Australia. So I was really looking forward to just going through it. I think we spoke last week about me telling you about the trial podcast to do with this. So the trial podcast was covered by the West Australian and I think it was like 7 News Media. They did a podcast together. It was really well done at the time. It was a really
good podcast,
it was a daily podcast that gave updates on the trial day by day, and it was absolutely fascinating. I loved it at the time, as in loved hearing all of the details. So, again, as we always say, if you want more detail, there's places to go because, this was a 7-month trial in the end.
Yes.
So there's a lot of detail that we won't be able to go through today.
Yeah.
We'll
do our best, but
that's it. So
a lot to it.
Before we get into it, how has your week been? What have you been up to?
We were just having a chat before we clicked on, and like just getting frustrated with my substitutions in my Woolies order.
Yeah, fair.
Yep. Who's had that happen? Jeez, I sometimes they get it spot on.
Yeah.
But today not so much. So
one of my friends at work, Louise. She's my work wife, actually. She just does blanket no substitutions because she got to the point where she was like, for God's sake, nothing they replace it with is what I actually want. So I'd just rather not replace it.
Yeah.
So it's a real first world problem, isn't it?
I like the substitutions because I purposely order the crap brand that I know they run out of a lot, and then you always get substituted with the better brand.
And you don't have to pay for it. Yeah, that is a bonus. Yeah.
No, so there's certain things I do just leave and on the odd occasion get a surprise.
Yep.
And I've got fussy eaters, so I definitely do a lot of do not substitutes on a number of items. But today just was the simple things that have been stuffed up. So we're just saying the pasta and apple juice. You think that's fairly easy to substitute or to leave alone. But to substitute macaroni for what I ordered was penne. I'm sorry. I'm not okay with this.
Pull your finger out. Surely there would have been penne in another brand.
And if my kids ate macaroni, then we'd be fine, but they will not.
I'll take your macaroni off you.
Send it your way. I reckon I've got a packet in my pantry at the moment that I've attempted a number of times with my kids and they're not eating it, so it's still sitting there.
Okay.
Which I've got to get rid of. So I'm not putting a bloody another packet in there to just sit there and look at me.
No, for you to throw out in 5 years when it goes out of date.
Exactly.
Actually, I was cleaning out the pantry the other day. Now, I like a neat and tidy pantry.
Oh, yes.
So it's a semi-frequent clean out that I do or tidy up. I found 2 packets. You know those meal sort of sauce packet things. So one of them was I think it was a beef stroganoff kind of sauce packet.
Yeah.
One was an apricot chicken sauce packet. And they were used by, I think it was 2018 or something like that. So that would have
where
survived.
did that come from?
Where did it come from? That would have survived, probably 10 pantry clean-outs.
How many times have you looked at that and gone, oh, yeah, that's still in date, and put it back in there? Because I'm the same. I do regular clean-outs. I like a very neat pantry. But, there's always an item where I go, geez, that is so out of date. And you're like, well, how does that got past me previously? I don't understand.
Speaking of doing clean-outs, when my grandmother passed away, so she lived in the country. She lived in very sort of remote, in a really remote area. The nearest supermarket was about 30 to 40 minutes away by car.
Right.
And she used to shop once a fortnight, and she would often bulk buy things, and when they were on special, she'd buy lots of them.
Yeah.
And she had a massive 2 chest freezers actually.
Yeah.
And anyway, when she passed away, we were up there cleaning things out, and on this particular weekend, Mum and Dad were up there. and it was time to clean out the deep freezer. And so they've turned it off because a lot of the stuff in there was like quite old.
Oh, yeah.
They get to the bottom of the freezer.
That's the worst with a deep freezer.
Yeah, she passed away in 2016. Oldest thing they found was a packet of frozen peas.
Oh, yeah.
That went out of date in 1992.
Oh.
She also had like blocks of frozen cheese
Yeah.
that like were, you know, a similar vintage, like just
that layer of like ice all under my bed. Like,
yeah. This is before the frost-free freezers existed.
Oh god, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that takes the cake. That was a decent innings for that packet of peas in particular.
I just hope she wasn't still eating them. I'm sure she wasn't.
Oh, I don't know.
That's the worst with a deep freezer like that. I've got one and I love it, but I have a whole system. I use boxes in it.
Rotating and
restocking.
Rotate.
So I have a box that I keep all like the chicken in, and a box where I keep beef in, and then I have a box I keep the frozen veggie in, so that I grab out the whole box when I'm looking for chicken or whatever I want out, so that then like it's only that box that needs rotating or like cleaning out, so that when you're getting it out, you're kind of seeing what's in there regularly, rather than going like, oh, that's that thing at the bottom that you never see again.
What else do you use your deep freezer for?
Icy poles and ice creams and stuff.
Okay.
And then like any of the meats.
Yeah.
And and then like bread as well. Sometimes if I get a loaf of bread, I just like, because my kids are fussy, I've said it a million times. One of them will only eat bakery bread. The other one couldn't give a shit, and I don't give a shit. Like, you know, so I always buy a loaf of bread from the supermarket.
Yep.
But then we'll buy bakery bread that's fresh, that gets used. But then if I'm desperate, we can always grab out of the freezer for the other two of us that will eat it.
Yeah.
So there's a fair bit of stuff I do keep in there like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is in there.
I've never owned a deep freezer.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
I feel like for meal
if you
prep
keep it,
and stuff,
if the system keeps going,
system works,
because otherwise, it's a trap. I reckon they can definitely be not great.
Our freezer as part of our fridge is quite big, so it is big enough to like put your loaves of bread and stuff in.
See, my freezer I chose because my freezer actually has, so my fridge has the freezer at the bottom, and it's a double door one. So I can have the bottom as being double doored freezer, or I can go one side freezer and one side like really nice chill drinks, you know, for my wine.
Oh, I love that.
So I ended up choosing that. Yes, I'll go with the wine fridge on the side.
Have to because I've got the deep freezer. So actually,
I've got a deep freezer. So I was more than willing to give up that other half of my freezer to have it as a permanent
even
drinks
if you
fridge.
didn't have a deep freezer.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that was like, it was no question about it.
Sold. I love it.
Perfect.
Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Yep. We're deep into all of the kids' activities and winter sports and stuff now. And this week the weather has changed.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm
we
kind
were
of glad
standing outside the other day at, what was I at?
Was it the footy?
Must have been footy. Yeah, and the temperature just dropped all of a sudden.
Our friend said to me, because I left earlier, and she said to me, oh, you left, and literally I reckon the temp dropped 5 degrees.
At least. It was so cold then, and I was walking home. I'm like, I'm freezing.
Oh, yeah, you walked over too. Yeah.
So cold.
God.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So we're really getting into the depths of winter, and we're just coming up for the weekend. We always record on a Friday, and I think this weekend's going to be disgusting.
Oh,
wet, cold. You know?
Yeah, thank God for basketball indoors.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sundays, though, with the footy. Oh, at least it's not wet yet. Like, that's what I'm dreading.
Yeah.
Standing out in the rain as well is the worst.
It is. It's horrible.
Yep.
Anyway, the things we do for these children,
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we get started, I've just got one other shout out today, and that's to Josie. She sent us a really lovely message about our school shooting series and gave us some information on guns and the way that it works and storing them. So apparently you can't, in Australia, you can't store your guns at a gun club. You have to store them at home. So we didn't know that. Thank you for letting us know. But she was saying that if you do have guns in your home, it is it's right that you don't tell your partner the combination to the safe, like to keep it safe, and you always keep your ammunition separate and stuff like that. So thank you for that information, especially in Australia. It was something that we didn't know about.
Yeah, I wonder whether those sorts of things are in America at all. Like, do they have any of those sort of regulations around the storage of the guns? Like, it's all one.
We should have probably looked into
Yeah,
it.
we probably
I
should
don't
look at
know.
it. I don't know.
I know
they don't
that-
seem to, from what I don't know what movies tell me. Like,
But then you hear people say like getting something out of my gun safe.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not.
but
a
is that just because
regulation, or
some people, do the right thing, or is there a regulation around it? Like,
if you know, please let us know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will try and remember to look into it.
yeah, because I know you can have a license, but you're not allowed to carry it around, and then you can have a license that does allow you to carry around, but there's no. I don't think there's any checks in terms of. I don't think you just Actually, it was in that documentary around Columbine where I think Kmart stopped selling certain ammunition, but I don't think that's all ammunition or anything. I know they still sell guns though, but they just don't sell the ammunition.
Well, I think they didn't sell the high caliber ammunition.
Just
after
irregular.
Columbine. And that was only because in that documentary, like you can see Mike. Oh my God, I've just lost his name.
Michael Moore.
Michael Moore, thank you. They actually went to the headquarters of Kmart and they hounded them until they came out and went, right, we've made the decision. Like it was because he was there with a film crew every day for a
Shoving
while.
it down their
yeah,
throats.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need more of that, I reckon.
Absolutely. I wonder if that still stands to this day.
Yeah, that's
though,
what I was
because,
like.
Columbine was
that was so long ago. I wonder whether Kmart have reneged on that and selling it again
I
or
don't
what.
know.
I haven't. Yeah.
Any of our American listeners,
Let us know. I'm intrigued. Yeah.
Me too.
It intrigues me entirely, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had a fair bit of feedback from just people in our lives about the school shooting series that we did.
Yeah.
And people are like, I just forgot about the detail of it and just how bad they were, because you do hear about it all the time and you sort of think they're not that bad.
So true.
But, oh my God, they're horrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, from one set of killers to another. Today we're talking about the Claremont serial killer. Mm-hmm. So Meg and I were sort of discussing the way we were going to go about presenting this today. What we do know and what we're going to work towards, and I think it's probably worth mentioning up front, is that Bradley Robert Edwards was the perpetrator of these crimes, and, well, all bar one he's been convicted of. And we're going to go through each of the victims, and then we're going to go through what led to his arrest, and then sort of into the trial for these women's murders.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So the three murders that are attributed to him or were attributed to him, I guess most commonly, there's a lot more out there that potentially could be, but anyway, that's something we can get to later.
Yeah.
So Sarah Spears, who was aged 18, was killed on or around, presumed to be killed on or around the 27th of January 1996. We have Jane Rimmer, who was aged 23 and was killed on or around the 9th of June in 1996. And then we have Kira Glennon, who was aged 27 and was killed on or around the 15th of March in 1997. Each of these girls came from a close, loving, middle-class family. They all grew up in or around or lived in or around the Mossman Park, Claremont area, which is, oh my God,
stunning part of the world. Yeah.
Like Cottesloe Beach is just up the road, and it is like beautiful.
One of the best beaches in the world. Easy.
Stunning, like white sand, crystal clear water, just absolutely
Perth is so overlooked by international visitors. Like for that, like everyone comes to, it's so far away. Everyone comes to Sydney and Melbourne, which, yep, you should. Like it's good. Melbourne's great. But Perth is stunning, absolutely stunning. Like so much to see in Perth. All of it. Yeah, all of WA, absolutely.
It's so far away. So we live in Melbourne. For our international listeners, we live in Melbourne. It's a 5.5 hour plane ride.
Four.
Depends which way the wind's
going. Yeah.
But it's a long way away. It's a decent, and there's a time difference as well. So you actually feel like you're flying internationally when you go to Perth.
You really do. Well, it's kind of like going back in time, actually. Let's be really honest.
Well, it is. It's kind of its own little.
It is. It's isolated in that sense from like the bigger cities and that sort of thing. So they're quite different people who live in Perth to someone who's going to live in central Sydney, you know, sort of stuff. So, but like it's a much more laid back kind of lifestyle, beachy lifestyle, you know, around that area, and like particularly this area where you would call it an affluent area, that Claremont sort of space and place. They're nice houses on the beach, like big properties and things like that. It's a very nice area. If you live around there, it's, you know, it comes with its own lifestyle. You know, it's not just, you don't just go there to live, I don't know, and go to work kind of thing. There's, you know, it's surfers, it's all that sort of stuff. It's great. It's a really cruisy kind of area. That's what it was known as. And
the weather in Perth also lends itself to that because it's warm
90% of the year.
A lot of the year.
Not so too hot either, because you go up further north and you're hitting 45 degrees, 50 degrees, potentially Kununurra kind of area, in more outback sort of stuff. But that Perth area, you're looking at 30 degrees most days of the year.
It's, just beautiful weather. Yeah. And that obviously means there's a lot of people out all the time, people out till later in the evening because it doesn't really get cold.
Yeah.
So that kind of, will come to all of this. But people were out and about walking the streets all the time, especially on Friday and Saturday nights when everyone was kind of going out and socialising.
Yeah.
So all of these girls had full-time jobs at the time of their disappearances. They had bright futures ahead of them, and they all had really close families and really close circles of friends. So they, in terms of where they were at in their lives, they were happy, healthy. You know, there's certain situations, circumstances that we'll get to for each girl about where they were at in their lives, but it's, you know, their futures were robbed from them. Absolutely. And they all had really, really bright futures ahead of them. So the first victim, and she was actually the youngest victim in this as well, her name was Sarah Jane Spears. She was the first to go missing. Her father, Don, was a shearing contractor in rural WA. Her mum's name was Carol, and she had a sister named Amanda. As a lot of kids in these sort of like rural communities do, when it came time to go to high school, her mum and dad decided to send her to the main city, to Perth, to go to boarding school.
Yep.
So she went to, I think it was Iona Presentation College in Mosman Park, and she actually made friends with so many girls at school and became really, really close with a handful of girls in particular who kind of became like her family because she was a boarder. She would go to her friends' houses for dinners and stuff like that because she didn't have her mum and dad close by. So she had friends who became like family to her during this time. After graduating, she attended secretarial school and she got a receptionist job at an engineering consultancy in Subiaco called BSD not long after she graduated secretarial school. From all accounts, she actually did an amazing job there. She was she was made for this. She was organised. She had everything sorted. She was a really good typist. She just had a natural ability for that skill set for sure. At this time, she was sharing a flat in Subiaco with her sister Amanda. So her sister was older than she was, and they decided to share a flat together. Cool as. I always wanted a sister.
Same. And to like then live with them, out of home kind of stuff like that. God, live it up.
And so Carol, their mum, said that they had such a close relationship. So they were best friends as well as sisters. So much so that when Sarah actually went missing, her mum said it wasn't necessarily unusual that they hadn't heard from Sarah on a daily basis because that wasn't the nature of their relationship. But the fact that Amanda hadn't heard from her was significant. Yeah. I mean, not only for the fact that they lived together, but even when they weren't together, they knew each other's whereabouts. They were in each other's lives. They shared friendship circles, and all of that sort of stuff. So on Australia Day in 1996, which is the 26th of January in Australia, Amanda picked Sarah and her friends up from the Ocean Beach Hotel, aka OBH. Yep. You'll hear it referred to as OBH. And she dropped them shortly after midnight at Club Bayview in Claremont. So OBH is in Cottesloe, which is sort of the next beachy suburb up from Claremont. Yeah. These were the places to be, by the way. So there was the Continental Hotel, which is the Conti. Yep. OBH and Club
Bayview.
Bayview were the three places that every young person frequented.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday
and they would sort of like
nights.
travel between like almost all three of them at times, like, you know, as you do that in the day, like they'd
Absolutely.
go between, like, you know, if one place wasn't pumping enough, you know, like they'd move to the next one. And and
And I
it was a
believe
real
Club Bayview and the Conti were so close to each other you could just walk.
you just walk between them. Yeah.
Whereas you needed to get a cab from OBH to the other
Conti
two.
or to Bayview.
Yeah, that's it. So that night, Sarah didn't actually go home. And Amanda thought it was a little bit weird, bit out of character.
Mm-hmm.
But then also there would potentially be the case that she was out with this certain group of friends. She'd often stay at their houses or they'd stay at her house.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't immediately at that night immediately worrying. However, Sarah had arranged for another friend to actually stay at their house on the night of the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
And when she wasn't home to be there for that friend coming over, which was prearranged, Amanda really freaked out. She's
not like her at
she
all.
would never do this.
No.
Like, she wouldn't leave her friend
High and dry.
and stranded.
No.
So Amanda actually contacted their dad, and their dad was like, okay, I mean, can you imagine? They're in rural WA.
They're so far away. It's not like, you know, I'm there 10 minutes. I'll be like, you know,
No. So they've obviously then reported her missing to the police. And to the police's credit, I mean, I think their thought immediately wasn't that she'd been murdered, but
because in the area, that's just not what was the norm by any means. That was not that wouldn't be their first thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the police immediately looked at her as a missing person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to their credit, they did that straight away. They started investigations straight away.
Yeah.
Not expecting like that she'd sort of come to ill will. They really thought she'd show up and be like, oh God, sorry, I
met a guy
or overstayed my welcome at someone else's house or something like that. Her dad expressed to the police and subsequently then in the media as well in the aftermath of all of this, his shock that she would leave somewhere on her own. Like, he was like, no, she's street smart. Yes, we're from the country, but she's lived on her own
in the city of, like, you know, kind of stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we taught them never to go anywhere on their own.
Yeah.
To be street smart, to, you know, look out for dangers when they're out and about.
Yeah.
And so he said, you know, he can't believe that she would have gone anywhere on her own. But as it turned out, she did. So they were at Club Bayview and she told friends she was getting really tired and wanted to go home. And one of her friends, I think her name was Emma actually.
Oh, must have been a good friend.
Good friend. She said to her, oh, I'll come with you. And apparently Sarah was like, no,
I'm
please
fine,
don't
you
worry,
stay.
I'm fine, you stay. And which...
It's like those sliding doors moments, isn't it? Like, it's just like, imagine if she'd gone, come with me. Like, ugh, yep.
Anyway, so what we know for sure is that Sarah left Club Bayview.
Yep.
She went to a payphone in Sterling Street, which is like literally just at the corner.
Around the corner, yep.
And she called a taxi from that phone booth.
Yep.
You can hear the recording. It was made public during the trial. And she basically said, like, the operator says, where to? And she says Mossman Park.
Yep.
Now, this kind of threw investigators when they found this footage, this recording, because she didn't live in Mossman Park.
Yep.
She lived in South Perth. What they then found out throughout their investigation was she actually that day, so during the day of the 26th of Jan, had been over to a friend's house and her friend wasn't actually home, but her friend's mum was home. Mm-hmm. They lived in Mossman Park.
Right.
And she'd stayed for 2 hours chatting with the mum,
right.
even though her friend wasn't there.
Love that.
And the mum said, oh, what are you doing tonight? And she said, oh, we're going out in Claremont. And the mum said, oh, instead of getting a taxi back to South Perth, you're more than welcome to come and stay here. You know where the spare key is.
Right.
So she'd obviously planned to take her up on that.
Yeah, take her up on that, right.
And this is also why Amanda wasn't immediately concerned, because she
that
probably had told her,
arrangement.
I might stay at the friend's house.
Yeah.
The mum's offered, I think the mum's name was Anne,
yeah.
has offered to have me stay over.
Yeah.
And again.
And if that's something that they regularly did with staying over, you wouldn't be concerned when she wasn't there that night.
No, you'd be like, oh, she's chosen not to spend the extra money on a taxi.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. She was only 18 years old. She probably didn't have a massive amount of disposable income.
Absolutely.
So this phone call was made to call the taxi. I think it was about 2 a.m. Is that right?
Yeah.
The taxi driver gets the dispatch order within, and he said he was there within 2 minutes.
Yes.
Now, this man, he was a Czech driver from the Czech Republic.
Yep.
And when he actually testifies in the trial as well, and he said he was there as he said, within 2 minutes. She was nowhere to be found. Mm-mm. And he said that wasn't uncommon. People would often call a taxi and then want to go past and you hail that
down, or someone else goes, no, just jump in with us. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, jump in. There's no one there when you get there as a cabbie.
Yeah, and then he said he did a U-turn, picked up another fare and went on his merry way.
Never thought anything of it. Absolutely.
So, wasn't an unusual thing. So she was actually, while she was waiting for the taxi though, she was seen by two men.
Yep.
And they were in a taxi themselves, and the driver actually pointed her out to them because he was like, the driver of their taxi was like, oh, check out that gorgeous young thing over there, and so both of them readily admitted in court they were checking her out.
Yeah.
She was gorgeous. All three of these girls were absolutely stunning. Not that they should be, they should be allowed to wait for a taxi without being ogled by men. But anyway. And she was leaning over a bollard, according to them, and it looked like she was waiting for a taxi.
Yep.
That was the last known sighting of her.
No one knows anything else of where she went there. No.
There is nothing else. On the night, witnesses heard blood-curdling screams. So there were 3 separate witnesses who report the same thing.
Yeah.
The first witness was named Judith Borat. She lived in Fairlight Street in Mosman Park, which was sort of like a street back from the main road through Mosman Park, from what I can gather.
Yeah.
She was a slightly elderly lady, but she must have been awake at the time because she doesn't, in her testimony, it doesn't say anything about her waking up to the screams, so maybe she was already awake. Her actual testimony, she says, they were desperate, blood-curdling, terrible, terrible screams, very high-pitched in the early hours of the 27th.
And it's one thing for one person to have said that, but there were multiple accounts of that very similar take on how that was.
So I've even written down the quote from the other people.
Yeah.
So she said. So Judith then said after that there was absolute silence.
Yes.
Then we have Jessie Marie Munro, who lived in an apartment in St Leonard's Avenue, which is sort of on the other side, and in Mosman Park. She said she heard a blood-curdling scream and woke up her partner, her then partner, who's now actually to this day her husband.
Yep.
His name's Wayne. He then heard a scream as well and went outside, or went to their window, which was open because it was hot. It was like a 40-degree day that day.
Yeah.
To check it out through their open window.
Yeah.
All 3 witnesses say that the screams came from the direction of a phone box on Monument Street.
Yeah.
Jessie Marie and Wayne saw a car at the phone box with their taillights on. So their testimony was that it looked like the brake pedal was being depressed, and then obviously it's gone in, like the parking brakes, the handbrake's been put on, the lights of the foot brake have come off.
Yep.
They then heard a car door slam.
Yep.
And then silence.
Well, I think they said there was one car door slam, and then about 10 seconds later, a second car door slam.
Okay. Yep.
And then silence.
So what I found interesting about this was neither of them contacted the police at that exact time.
No.
Wayne and Jessie Marie contacted Crime Stoppers the next morning once they'd woken up again. But by this stage, they didn't really know, they hadn't really seen anything. They were able to give a kind of description of the car.
Yeah.
Wayne got the car pretty right. What we now know was probably pretty right. He said it was a Toyota Camry station wagon. White, cream coloured.
Yeah.
It was actually He said it was a Toyota Corona station wagon. It was actually a Toyota Camry station wagon.
Yeah, but pretty close. Yeah.
But Judith didn't actually report it until a week later.
Right.
Because it was playing on her mind.
Yep.
And she was like, and so she actually called Crime Stoppers as well.
Yeah.
And reported it through there. So their testimony was heard during the trial, but, aside from what I've just said there, they didn't really have any other evidence to give.
No.
But I think it goes to the fact that, something happened
in that
Mosman
area.
Park area.
Yeah. And they didn't find anything, did they, when they, like the following day or whatever, when the first witnesses called that? Did they search that area?
They went to the phone box.
Yeah.
So they sent uniformed police,
but they didn't find any evidence around there at all, no.
Having said that, it wasn't like the forensic team went there. It
no,
was
just local cops. Just uniformed cops checking it out.
Untoward around.
Yeah. Which, at that point, they probably, I guess, the next morning for sure, she hadn't been reported even missing yet.
Not yet. No.
So, looking around for something that you don't even know what anything's possibly occurred, not even linking up the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God. Imagine if they'd called the cops on the night. I don't know.
Would it have made a difference?
Would it have made a difference? Who knows? Yeah.
But guys, if you see something, say something. If you hear a blood-curdling scream in the middle of the night, call the cops. What's the worst that can happen?
They go check it out. Yeah. Nothing's there and that's that. But awful.
Yeah.
But he was clearly organised in what he was doing in that sense. Like if he left nothing behind too, no evidence of anything.
I think we're going to get to all of that soon.
Yeah.
So we actually know nothing else of Sarah Spears. Her body to this day has never been found. I can't imagine how that must make her family feel.
Yeah.
We'll get to the way this was presented. Her case was presented in trial a little bit later on. So the second victim was Jane Louise Rimmer. She was 23 years old at the time of her attack. Her mum, Jenny, dad, Trevor, brother, Adam. She was a childcare worker and they were a very, very close family.
Yeah.
So much so, I actually love this. They would have Sunday family lunch. It was just not an option not to attend. Everyone always came back for Sunday family lunch.
Love that.
But Jane would actually quite often drop in her load of washing on a Saturday for mum and dad to have it ready for her for Sunday to pick up.
Good plan.
Yeah, love that. So apparently on this day, on the Saturday morning, she dropped her washing off, basket of washing off. And so the family fully expected her to be there for the Sunday lunch.
It's obviously, absolute intention that she's going to be there the next day to pick that up.
She needs her clothes for the week.
And a good feed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, you just made me actually flashback to that. That ad about Tom Cruise with Nicole Kidman in it. It was like, you're going to give up Sunday roast for a date with Tom Cruise. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
About this time.
Not these days.
Oh, no. Take that roast any day.
Same.
Oh, God.
So Jane grew up in Shenton Park, which I believe was quite a nice suburb as well of Perth. She attended the local primary school, Rosalie Primary School, and then she went to Hollywood High School. So all in the same sort of area.
Yeah.
Growing up, she had a part-time job at the local deli. We've all had our lovely part-time jobs. What was your favourite part-time job?
Oh, my favourite? Probably working at the jewellery store.
Yep.
I loved that. But the one before that actually was pretty cool. I worked at a photo developing shop,
cool.
which is for the kids out there who don't understand that photos weren't always digital and you used to have to go and get them printed. You'd hand in your
Oh my God, what was the best photo you ever saw? Oh.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Because I wasn't the one printing, but my friend who lived across the road from me is how I got the job. He used to do the printing and I would serve customers and stuff and he'd be like, when you're done, come over here and check this out.
Oh my God. But people to have the audacity. I mean, you had no other choice but to do it. If you wanted those photos, you had to send them in to be developed.
Yep.
But was there a law against
Yeah, you had to report certain things.
Yeah, okay.
This sort of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But the worst one was then because the customers would come in and you'd have to give their photos over that you've just seen stuff of.
Oh, that's mortifying.
Because then you'd have to do the whole if it was a different day or whatever to the person who printed them, you'd be like, I saw that person. This is what they were like.
Oh God.
That was a good job.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
so cool.
Very different days.
Wasn't
I
it?
am that old.
Jane was very popular at school, really well liked. She was a real surfer chick. Anytime she had spare time, she'd be down at Cottesloe Beach surfing.
Love that.
And all of her friends were sort of into the same thing. So they were, a really good group of kids. She took a job as a childcare worker in the Nedlands area not long after finishing school. She always, according to her brother Adam, she loved kids. And so just had an absolute passion for that.
Yeah.
She then worked for a little bit of time as a nanny for a family in Esperance, and then she actually went back to the childcare centre not long before her disappearance and subsequent murder. Jane and her friends often, as we were talking about with Sarah, they often hung out at Club Bayview, at the Conti, OBH. There's CCTV of her on the night of her disappearance, which was on the 8th of June in 1996. The CCTV footage was taken at 10:40 p.m, like the little snippet. Have you seen it?
No,
online?
I haven't seen that one.
It's actually really fascinating because, so this was at the front of Club Bayview. Inside the club, the CCTV switched between cameras every 11 seconds. And there was sort of like, so you could actually, inside, you could kind of see every 11 seconds, but you would give a different angle from different corners.
So you'd have like seconds where you wouldn't see that corner or whatever. Or
yes, you would. But the way the cameras were set up inside, you could kind of see everything kind of. Whereas outside, there were only 2 cameras and they were on a 35-second loop. So it'd be 35 seconds at this angle, 35 seconds at that angle, 35 seconds at this angle, 35 seconds at that angle. And in angle A, let's call it angle A, you could see Sarah. She'd come out of the club. You could see her waiting out the front.
Right.
In the second angle, though, you couldn't see her really. You could kind of just see the side of her head, actually. Okay. You couldn't see her face.
Yeah.
At one point, a man comes up to her and you can see her face. She's like kind of excited or happy to see this person. We don't know to this day who that person is. She's kind of like chats with him for a few seconds and then he goes and greets the bouncers or something. And she's then standing there on her own. We assume waiting for a taxi. Anyway, so then in that footage you can see her. It then switches to the other angle where you kind of can't see her now. She's kind of stepped out of the frame of that.
Yeah.
It then switches 35 seconds later back to that first angle
and she's not there. Oh, that's sickening. Oh, God.
Now, I guess the presumption is that she's gotten into a taxi.
35 seconds or not less than. Like,
you know what? You also, in the B angle, in the second angle, you can't actually see a car pull up. But you can
if
see
it was
the road.
on the... Oh.
Now, nothing majorly untoward must have happened because there were multiple people standing there.
Yeah.
There were security guards standing out the front as well.
Yeah.
So what actually has happened, we don't actually know.
You got to wonder. Okay, so this person or whoever is taking her, right? Are they that well organised that they know these things about the cameras? Or are they just fucking lucky?
I don't know. Time will tell.
Yep.
Actually, I don't know that we ever actually get a full answer to that. But the organisation is certainly something that comes into play.
Absolutely.
Earlier that day, Jane had gone to have her hair done. So it was just a wash and a blow dry at the local salon. She was wearing blue jeans, a nice top, and a jacket.
Jeans and a nice top.
Jeans and a nice top.
What are you wearing tonight? Jeans and a nice top. It was just like...
Everyone's jeans and a nice top.
Jeans and a nice top.
Yep.
Yeah.
My go-to nice top when I used to go out was this black sparkly number.
Yep. Love that. That would be so you.
Yeah. I loved that top. I don't even know what happened to it, actually.
We all had that favourite one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And she was also wearing a Guess branded watch, silver watch.
Oh, I had a Guess watch at that point too.
Oh, I think they were the in thing.
They were
actually.
the in thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'd gotten a taxi to meet her friends at OBH and then they all decided to jump in another taxi and go to the Conti for the rest of the night. Oh, it's just terrifying. That night, 45 kilometres... So, actually, sorry, just going back just a little bit. She actually... A similar situation to Sarah. She was like, oh, I'm getting really tired. I think I'm going to go home. She'd had a busy day at work. I mean, if you're a childcare worker...
Oh, kill me now.
You'd be exhausted.
Yeah.
So she said to her friends, I'm going home. I'm so tired. And her friends were like, oh, we'll come with you.
And this is the thing what gets me with this. Like, in it, these are these two girls responsible. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to be the one going home at 2 a.m. I want to go home early and get a good night's sleep. These aren't, you know what I mean? That they're doing the right thing. And they're the ones who end up like this. Not that anyone deserves this, but they're just girls with their heads screwed on, like, they've got their life that they want to, they've got things they want to do the next day, and they're not going to write themselves off or whatever and continue partying. And I don't know anyone who'd do that.
Oh God, no! How irresponsible. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, these girls are, I mean, they're just going about their lives. You shouldn't have to ever be worried about anything.
Being
like
out
this
at night and stuff and partying wasn't their be all and end all. There was other things to do, kind of stuff. They were looking out for themselves, going home. And
so this happened like 6 months. This day was 6 months after Sarah Spears went missing. So I feel like, and at this stage, Sarah Spears was still missing.
Yeah.
Nobody actually knew what happened to her.
In their minds, it would have been like, there was a girl who went missing from this area. But it's removed in that it's one person, and maybe she had something going on, and she's not been found to be dead. Like, she'd be living her life in Broome or something, and like something like that. Who knows? She could be 18-year-old off having fun. So in their minds, they weren't in an issue. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't that.
That's
yet.
Exactly right.
Yep.
So that night, 45 kilometres away in Wellard, two people heard a loud, high-pitched female scream, which stopped abruptly, like mid-scream. Then silence.
Yeah.
The following day, a man by the name of Paul Lagenbach, 20-year-old man, was riding a horse in Wellard, and his horse got spooked by something, and it actually threw him off the horse.
Oh, right.
And when he landed, he sort of landed on all fours, and he saw a woman's guest's watch on the floor. So on the ground. So he just picked that up.
Right.
And he's like, oh, sweet. And he said it looked brand new, like really well, really
looked after.
Really good condition, really well looked after. Little did he know that Jane's body was actually right there, and he didn't see it. I assume that's probably what spooked the horse.
Yeah, the horse would have known that. He wouldn't have necessarily, because, I mean, at that point, I guess it sounds awful, but the body wouldn't have been smelling yet to him, but the horse would have picked up on that. So, I can guarantee that's exactly what the horse was reacting to.
Yeah.
Because it took another 2 months before her body was found there in Wellard, which is just awful to think. I mean, he must have felt terrible he didn't find her immediately, but having said that, how awful to have found her too. If I don't know, which one would you prefer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that Sunday, so Jane's obviously failed to turn up for family lunch and to pick up her washing.
Yeah, well.
And her mum decided to go to her flat, saw that Jane's car was in its normal spot, so she fully expected Jane to be in the flat, had just maybe she was sleeping in or something.
Yep, not feeling well or something like that. Yep.
No Jane. So the family immediately then called the police. As you said, a couple of months later, on the 3rd of August in 1996, a mum and her kids were driving in the Wellard area, and they spotted a rooster on the side of the road, and the kids wanted to chase the rooster.
As you do.
So the mum said, go for it. You go for it. I'm going to let you have a bit of a run around. And the mum actually said that she saw some lilies on the side of the road that she wanted to
wildflowers. Yeah, there's so many beautiful wildflowers along those roads in Perth and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, the photos of it look beautiful.
Yeah.
So she let the kids out, let them go for a run and chase this poor bloody rooster. And she was starting to pick lilies, and in doing so, she uncovered Jane's body, which was only just covered by some like leaves and like bushes and branches.
Wasn't like
and stuff.
heavily hidden, like it was
buried.
Yeah.
Jane's body was naked, and by this stage, I mean, it was in a fairly advanced state of decomposition.
Yeah.
A little bit after this, so the police have obviously done a bit of a canvass of the area, but some other horse riders, I think it was around like not that long after Jane's body was discovered, but they actually picked up a Telstra-issued knife in the area.
Yes.
And that, again, it was just something that caught their eye as they were riding past.
Yeah.
Picked it up and saw that it had a Telstra logo on the handle of it.
So Telstra is the Australia. Well, it would have been Telecom actually, not Telstra, wasn't it? At that
no,
point?
it was Telstra.
Was
by this
Telstra
point.
at that point?
Telecom became Telstra mid-1995.
95, right? Okay, cool. Because both of that will come into play, I think.
Yes, they do.
So Telecom and Telstra are the same thing, and it's our telecommunication company that does majority of the telecommunications within Australia, all right across the entirety of Australia. Yeah.
So this has obviously gained a lot of publicity, and the 20-year-old horse rider Paul, who picked up Jane's watch, realised what he had in his possession. And so he contacted police. So the police used that as evidence that she was actually murdered either in the early hours of the 9th or the late hours of the 8th of June, which coincidentally was actually a long weekend as well. It was the Queen's back then, the Queen's birthday long weekend. Interestingly enough, the Australia Day disappearance of Sarah Spears, that was also a long weekend. It's just an interesting little
coincidence or not, or
we don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we are now onto the third victim. So Kira Eilish Glennon.
And by this stage, the community, obviously with the second murder, the police were already putting together these two were most likely connected. They'd already sort of used the words around the community that was potentially one person, potentially, was out and about, and that people should be on the lookout and taking more care of who they're interacting with. So, yes.
Kira Eilish Glennon, her dad is Dennis Glennon. He is at the forefront of the media publicity for all of this. He's an incredible man and a wonderful advocate for not only his daughter but for the other victims of this perpetrator.
Yeah.
Her mum, Una Glennon, and she had a sister named Denise Glennon. So Kira was born actually in Zambia to Irish parents, and the family settled in Perth when she was about 6 or 7 years old, or maybe 8, somewhere around there. So she was still in primary school when they moved to Perth. They lived in the affluent area of Mosman Park. I think her dad was an engineer and very well regarded in the industry. He owned his own business by this point. She graduated from the University of WA in 1992 with degrees in law and Japanese, because why not just do both?
Well, when you're, amazing.
When you're incredible. You do you, girl.
Absolutely. Clearly, so much potential.
Yeah, so much potential.
Yep.
She gained a very prestigious and hard-fought internship at the law firm Blake, Dawson, Waldron in 1993. So literally, as soon as she graduated, she walked into this
snapped
internship.
her up. Yep.
Her father describes her as being resourceful, resilient, and strong-willed. She knew what she wanted, and she went and got it.
Yep.
She was a very keen ballet dancer. She was really petite. She was only 155 or something centimeters tall, so she was quite short, very, very petite in stature. But he said that wasn't her personality.
Yeah, she made up for it everywhere. I love it.
She was really sort of headstrong and determined. She always achieved what she wanted to achieve.
Wow.
2 weeks before her disappearance, she returned from a year travelling around the world. She did a lot of this solo.
Yeah.
She met up with friends in various places and obviously made lots of friends along the way, because I think she was very, very friendly.
Outgoing and friendly. Yeah.
This, I think, also goes to the fact that she must have been incredible at her job. Blake Dawson Waldron took her back, so they let her have this year of leave.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like in that, maybe in a law firm, that might be unprecedented. I don't know. But
clearly she was good at her job to say, take a leave and we'll when you come back.
We'd love to have you back when you come back.
So
her sister said that she slotted straight back into her friendship group, straight back into her work circle. And the reason she came back is because Denise was actually getting married and Kira was a bridesmaid in the wedding. So,
that's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking because unfortunately, on the 15th of March in 1997, Kira went to meet friends at the Conti. She decided to make her own way home. Exactly the same situation as the other two girls. She was like, all right, I'm done, but I don't want my friends to miss out. They're having a great time.
Yeah, you guys keep having fun.
I think she would have probably still been jet lagged and, she was trying to get back into the swing of things. And I believe she had a dress fitting or something with her sister the following day. So she probably wanted to be a bit fresh for that and not feeling seedy. Yeah.
Yep.
So she decided to go make her own way home.
Yep.
3 men at a bus stop. I think they call these guys the Burger Boys because they were they were eating burgers or something at the time. We're at a bus stop.
The traditional grabbing the takeaway food as you leave the nightclub.
What's your go-to hangover food?
Or
after you're leaving
Or back then, there was always these good hot dogs at one place that were pretty amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about like kebab?
Never been into the kebab situation.
I love a kebab.
Like, I mean, I don't mind a kebab. Don't get me wrong, but like it wasn't my thing after a night out.
After a night out, yep.
Yeah.
One of my girlfriends just always wanted an orange Fanta.
Do you know what I feel that you need the liquid that the hydration and the sugar.
But it couldn't be any other soft drink. It had to be an orange Fanta.
Well, with that I have to pay that Macca's the premix stuff. It's not. I mean, like not the premix. Sorry, the post mix. Is what you need. I don't know why you don't want. Like it's less fizzy or something about it that you need that post mix.
A Macca's post mix.
Yeah,
is next level.
When you're hungover, that was one thing I definitely craved. Was like wasn't so much the food. It was a post mix Coke from like a Macca's. Yeah, hit the spot.
I'd agree. Actually, I fully agree on that.
And not Diet Coke. Sorry, I can't do your fake sugar.
Oh, I can do a Coke Zero. I can't do a Diet Coke these days though.
Yeah, fake sugar. Can't stand it. I just don't drink enough soft drink to kind of go. If you're going to have one, go the full fat.
Yeah, but I find Coke coats my mouth. Like I don't know, it makes my mouth feel yuck.
Real Coke. Yeah. Yes, like that's what I think that's the post mix thing. I don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
Like I know it
doesn't have the same
intensity. I don't know, like what it is. I'm not sure.
Anyway,
go
Macca's post mix.
Post mix, yeah.
So these three Burger Boys saw Kira walking along Stirling Highway at about 12:30 a.m. and they actually saw her interacting with a light-coloured vehicle that stopped next to her as she was walking along the road.
Yes.
19 days later, on the 3rd of April in 1997, her semi-clothed body was found by a bushwalker 40 kilometres north of Claremont.
Yeah.
In Eglinton.
Yeah.
Now, this is the absolute opposite side of Perth to Wellard. So we're talking 40 k's north and 40 k's south, essentially.
Yes.
So it wasn't, I guess,
it was a bit out of zone of where other things had happened with the other victims.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not that we know where Sarah Spears' body is, but it just seemed to be a bit weird, and so much so that the police were like, is this related?
Because the other thing with this attack was that it was even more. Well, they obviously don't know about the attack with Sarah, but definitely from between Jane and this one. This one was far more intense. She fought well and truly, which I mean comes down to what you're saying about her personality too. That she was someone who was feisty, and she may have been little, but she would fight. And she certainly fought. She fought to the point where she ended up scratching this person. And she had obviously things under her fingernails. But we're talking 1997. And so DNA evidence isn't amazing yet. But there was definitely stuff there that they did collect because it was clear from her body that she had fought, that there was, defensive wounds and things. So quite different to Jane in some of that sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess now we've got these three missing girls, two of whom we know are murdered and whose bodies have now been found.
And definitely presuming that Sarah's dead at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're connecting them.
I mean, it's worth noting that her Medicare card was never used. Her bank accounts were never touched. She never made contact with friends or family or anything like that again. So she is absolutely presumed dead by this time.
Yeah. And we're talking like 14 months between her disappearance and then Kira's. There's the timeline sort of says that they were connected. Yeah.
That's right. And so, and the fact that they all went missing from a very similar area definitely connected them. So the police actually were forming the view that they had a serial killer on their hands.
Yeah.
And they decided to form a task force in order to investigate these murders / disappearance. So it was called the Macro Task Force. It was actually set up originally after Jane's disappearance, but it ramped
Really
up
ramped
in
up.
that they threw so many more resources at it after Kira's.
100 police officers at its peak were included in the Macro Task Force. So a lot of bodies on this job and a lot of brains putting together. So, I mean, look, we wouldn't have an outcome to this if that Macro Task Force hadn't been put together, and the amount of people working on it. They had lots of theories. They chased everything, and to their credit, I think that they did a good job. There were certain things that they've looked at back now and gone, okay, that maybe wasn't done great, but enough was done good enough that it was able to be solved eventually.
Absolutely.
So,
and I feel like, in terms of like preservation of evidence and all of those things that in previous cases that we've discussed, things have gone awry.
Yep.
In this case, they've handled all of that really well. The cataloguing of evidence, the
not losing evidence like sometimes they do in Victoria.
yeah, totally. But even just the way that they organised the task force, they had like teams doing different parts of it, and it really went to what the eventual outcome was. Now, I mean, it was decades down the track.
Yes,
but they never stopped working on this.
no.
So I think the first line of investigation for them was taxi drivers. Because in all instances, all girls said to their friends before they left, I'm going to get a taxi home.
Yeah, and obviously we've got the call from Sarah Spears particularly confirming that so they definitely were thinking, well, this sounds like it could be a taxi driver which a woman on your own, you think you're safe, you're getting into a taxi at this point, that it was a fair way to go in terms of looking at, okay, are these women getting into taxis and this taxi driver's taking advantage of the fact that is he actually a taxi driver, or is he just pulling up and seeing these girls and he's got his car marked that way? And then, so there was a lot of things that went on at this point in terms of regulating the taxis too. It actually sparked a whole overhaul of the entire industry to ensure safety of everybody from taxi drivers. Turns out wasn't a taxi driver, but I mean, I think that was amazing what came out of that in terms of safety. More and more need that now. We've got other companies coming into play where back then it was only limited to a very few taxi companies. But yeah, they overhauled what kind of if there was. I think it was a certain level of, if you've had convictions, of certain convictions, you couldn't be a taxi driver. Also, if there was, you couldn't just decommission a taxi car and leave it marked. It had to be completely redone so that it was clean of all taxi signature on it, so that people couldn't be picked up by cars that were mismarked.
Yeah. So the way they did this was incredible, but they asked for taxi drivers to volunteer DNA samples. Thousands of taxi drivers had DNA samples taken.
Because if you didn't do anything, you would have just been.
And you want to clear your industry too, because I think it was out in the media that, what if a taxi driver's done this? Then people were scared to use taxis.
I mean, as a female on your own with this happening, not just in that area, it would spark for everyone across Australia, I think, going, hey, you know what? Don't get in a cab by yourself, because, taxi drivers could be doing this.
You know what I find funny though? In collecting all of these DNA samples, fingerprints and everything that they did from these taxi drivers, they actually found 87. They were able to solve 87 other cases of things of where fingerprints. I'm like, if you've done a crime, why are you volunteering your fingerprints, you dickheads? But I think they thought that they were only going to be matched to that crime, case. But they actually were able to solve it. I think it was 87.
Oh, that's
like
amazing.
That.
Oh, geez, some taxi drivers are into some shit, aren't they?
Yeah. And they ended up needing to decommission roughly 50, I think, based on their crimes. So, yeah, you're right. It meant an overhaul, but it also meant that, people were a little bit scared of taxi drivers. Yeah. What I find really interesting, and we find this out throughout the trial. So the trial happened in 2019. But it wasn't until then that we actually found out that right from when Sarah Spears went missing, it was actually already rebranded to Telstra. A Telstra car was identified as being seen in the area at that time.
And that was
the
that.
exact same thing happened
Yeah.
at the disappearance of Jane Rimmer and Kira Glennon.
That wasn't connected up till too late, unfortunately.
Never.
Yeah.
And it was never reported.
Yeah.
So everyone's thinking it's a taxi driver. In all three circumstances, there have been sightings of this pale-coloured Telstra vehicle, and that was never communicated in the media. I don't even think the police actually put it out in anything.
And it's such a bias within, obviously, the police force at the time to be going, oh, taxi driver, couldn't be a Telstra worker. It says a lot to me.
This is the thing that Kira Glennon's dad says.
Yeah.
He's like, if they had have put this out when they knew about it, maybe Kira would be alive today.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because maybe with a Telstra vehicle's, pulled up there, you'd be like, oh, no. Nope. Whereas, everyone's being a bit cautious of a taxi driver. Instead of maybe a Telstra driver going, hey, rather than get the taxi, come in my car instead because I'm safer. Which, wrong.
Interesting. So the first suspect.
Yes.
Oh, this guy. His name is Lance Williams.
Yeah.
In April 1998, he was arrested. No, interviewed.
No, just interviewed. And they surveilled him for a long time.
Like years.
Years. Yeah. Yeah, he was identified by the police as their prime suspect.
Odd
bloke. Odd. But he took it upon himself to, with all this going on, that he was like, oh, I've got to protect everyone, which, I mean, beautiful. But he would drive around, saying to women, well, get in my car, I'll drive you and stuff.
And he had a van.
He had a van or a station wagon?
A van.
It was a van?
You're like, geez, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. But have you seen him interviewed?
Oh, my God, yes. He is, he's quirky.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
and look,
very, very quirky.
Turns out he meant no harm, but...
Oh, he meant no harm. He thought he was doing the right thing by
absolutely.
doing 30 laps of Cottesloe and
I love that
Claremont.
it never entered his head, though, that this makes me look weird. Yeah. It's like my dad a few months ago, whatever, or it was quite a while ago, where he drove to his local primary school that he went to and sat out the front to look at the school. And I'm like, Dad, don't do that.
That's really
And he's like, why? Why? What's wrong with that? I'm like, old bloke sitting in a car outside of a primary school. Don't do that. It's the same sort of vibe, but
someone
way worse.
would have taken your number plate down.
Yeah, 100%. Someone took down your number plate.
And they're just keeping it just in case.
Yeah, he was totally innocent in what he was doing. And no thought process whatsoever to the thought of that people would think that's weird.
When you're innocent, you don't think of it in that context, I suppose.
No.
So the police were surveilling him, as we said, for years and years. And when they arrested him to interview him, he just from the get-go maintained his innocence.
Yeah.
And in some of the questioning, I saw an interview with his mum, and his mum basically said, the police said to him, come on, mate, just admit it. You've got nothing to lose now. We know everything. And he said to his mum, apparently, I can't admit to something I didn't do. And she was interviewed by one of the news outlets, and they basically thought, oh, well, yeah, of course the mum's going to back what the kid says. Then they decided to go and interview him. So after he'd been released, because they had nothing to hold him on, they had nothing substantial.
No, other than he's just acting odd.
Acting odd. The surveillance turned up nothing. Yes, he actually said that he stopped going out because on a Friday and Saturday night because he'd always be being followed by the he knew he was being surveilled.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I just didn't go out on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah, yeah. Go out and do it other times.
I guess so.
Try and pick up women and tell them not to walk the streets.
He was really odd.
Yeah.
Really, really odd.
But it took until 2008 for the cops to clear him, though. 10 years they had him on their radar and watching him.
They interviewed him at length 6 different times over that time, and his story never changed.
Yeah.
So
interesting guy.
He died in 2018, so 10 years after he was sort of no longer a person of interest.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I guess he had 10 years of freedom towards the end there. But I think it was very limiting for him. He was a public servant, and he said he'd go to work, come home, and he was kind of a bit of a recluse in the end because of all of this and because people thought it was him.
Yeah, yeah.
It was it was made
fairly public. Yeah.
And,
that they had
you
someone on there that they were looking at. Yeah. And it wasn't him.
It wasn't him.
Yeah. It's not illegal to be a weirdo.
Yep. Just a regular run-of-the-mill weirdo.
Yep.
That's it.
In 2006, a British guy, Mark Dixie, was on their radar of being a potential suspect, but he was ruled out pretty quickly. So he'd murdered other people though. So, but yeah, no, he wasn't the guy either.
And then didn't they, for a little while, they had Bradley, oh my God, Edward? No, what? Oh my God, now I'm getting my serial killers mixed up.
Yes.
Murdoch?
Yeah.
On their list? Was it Bradley Murdoch? I think it was. They had him on their list for a little while, but then they ended up ruling him out. Oh, that's right, because he was actually in prison not for Sarah Spears, but he was in prison over the time that Jane Rimmer and Kira Glennon when they disappeared.
Yeah, yeah.
They had, I think they ended up having over 100 suspects on their list at some point.
Yes.
And obviously were working to eliminate as they went through.
Yeah.
It wasn't until December 2016 that they arrested Bradley Robert Edwards in relation to the murders of Jane Rimmer and Kira Glennon.
Yes.
Now, we were talking about this before we hit record because the mechanism by which they arrested him is really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, is it worth now going back a little bit?
I think we should go back as to why this triggered that. Yeah.
So, do you want to start that one?
All good.
So this was
amazing.
in 1998, wasn't it? The Karrakatta.
1988 was the first one.
Yep. So in 1988, he we now know, and he has admitted to and has... Yeah,
he pled guilty to that one.
Pled guilty to.
Yeah.
The rape of a 17-year-old girl at Karrakatta Cemetery.
He was 19 himself at the time.
Yep.
Yep.
So he basically... she was walking home, I believe. He took her, grabbed her from behind, grabbed her shoulders, put a muffle in her mouth.
That one actually, no, what you're talking about is 1995.
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry, we've got to go back. So 1988, he broke into an 18-year-old's home.
Yes.
Sorry, yep, in Huntingdale.
Sorry.
All good.
Absolutely.
So again, still Western Australia. He was wearing a women's nightie when he broke in.
And a kimono.
Yeah, and a kimono. And after he was caught. The father actually caught him in the act.
And he was wearing black stockings.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, you do you. So anyway, in the moment of the father sort of broke into, found, because she was screaming and all this. So he fled from that scene. In fleeing from the scene, he left behind a silk kimono, and on that silk kimono was semen. So they had DNA. So this is 88 though. So DNA is not really a thing yet, but good policing, they did keep that evidence.
And they stored
it correctly and it was put aside. So nothing can be done with it at that point. But this became it's his first known violent attack that is, known.
A couple of weird things about this one, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, he knew her.
Yep.
He'd been to high school with her. He was friends with her brother.
Yeah, so he was 19 and she was 18. So they were very, in the same age bracket. And
he'd been to their house, as into the front door, but had never been officially inside. But somehow sort of roughly knew the layout of the house. Now, her recollection of this is fascinating to me. So this happened the night of Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So she'd spent the entire day with her boyfriend. She'd made her boyfriend shave in the morning, and because they were spending the day together, and she said, I wanted to kiss him a lot. It was Valentine's Day, so I made him shave in the morning. I love that for her. Anyway, by the end of the day, they'd actually had a bit of a disagreement, and the boyfriend left the house. So I think they'd gone to bed or something already, but they'd had a disagreement, and he left.
Yes.
She was asleep in bed, and she felt someone get into bed, and she assumed that was her boyfriend
him coming back to apologise or whatever.
So she thought it was a bit weird because he was rougher than she would have expected him to be.
Yeah.
Putting his arms around her, holding her very tightly.
Yeah.
She then thought that he'd put the doona cover kind of over her face, but
Yeah.
it was actually a rag that
Yes.
was put over her face
Yes.
to try and muffle the sounds. And when that happened, she kind of reached behind her to feel who it was or what was going on.
Yeah.
And she felt stubble on the face. And she's like, oh, and that immediately
not-
shocked her in because she'd made her boyfriend shave that morning.
Yes.
She was like, oh my God, that's not him. She called out for the dad, and that's when the dad caught him in
Yes,
mid-act.
you're right. Yes. And was there something on the rag that like something a little bit to make her potentially, was there a smell to that rag or something that she was
I'm
like,
not sure, like,
because
whether
I remember
it's
hearing her
propofol or
say
something. I don't
something
know.
else like, I've tried not to breathe then because I didn't want to breathe in what was on the rag or something.
Right. Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But I know, like, in further perpetrations of things, he always used a rag to either shove in their mouth to stop them from making a noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Awful.
Sorry, I got those two mixed up.
all good.
I'm sorry
yeah,
about
so
that.
1988, that was that occurred. There was then another incident in 1990 where he was actually convicted of this one. So he attacked a social worker at Hollywood Private Hospital, and it was an awful, aggressive attack in the hospital. He pulled her into a room and attacked her. He didn't quite get to any sexual act on her or anything like that. There was people that were able to intervene, and she escaped him, but he was convicted of that assault. So I don't know how long he spent in jail for that, or if it was he didn't.
So what actually? So she. He was working at the Hollywood Hospital, so he was a Telstra field worker.
That's right.
And he was working at the Hollywood Hospital upgrading their PABX system. And so he was there in a professional capacity in uniform.
Yeah.
She was in a really quiet part of the hospital making case notes or something, as you were saying. And he went in like saying to her, oh, can you tell me where the toilet is? And then he's attacked her and whatever. Not whatever, but attacked her at that event that you just described took place.
Yeah.
He was then detained by security because they heard her screaming.
Yeah.
He was detained by security until the police got there. The police took him to the station and interviewed him that night. So apparently the attack happened at about 4 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That night, he was interviewed and charged, and then about a month later appeared in court where his sentence was 2 years of probation and he had to attend a mandatory sex offenders like rehab course.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't actually convicted of a sex offence.
No.
He was only convicted of common
Assault. Yes.
So
no DNA was taken or anything like that at this point. So but he was at least convicted, but he didn't spend so no time. It was all either suspended or it was all probation.
It was all probation. All
right.
probation.
Yeah. Awful.
I mean, to them, that was his first offence.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah, to them it was.
He basically got off with a caution. Now, the other interesting thing about this is that his workplace never found out about it.
This is the thing. That's right.
Yeah. They never notified Telstra.
What on earth?
So
why wouldn't they do that?
And they now know because, I mean, when they did this trial, they were so incredibly thorough.
Yeah.
The prosecution had evidence of the day that he took off work as an annual leave day, which correlated with the day he went to court.
And so, yeah, he didn't say to work, I've got to go to court. He just said, I'm having an annual leave day. So, yeah, not even he was admitting anything, obviously. But
if he then was going to go to jail, obviously he would have dealt with that at the time. But I think he probably would have assumed.
Wouldn't you have thought, though, that
would have said, no, you'll probably get off with a slap on the wrist for this one.
Yeah, but the hospital surely were like, we don't want that guy back here. So
but they
communicate with Telstra and say, hey, this guy's just done this here and attacked one of our workers. Don't ever send him back here. He should have lost his job.
He should have lost his job, but he didn't.
Oh.
And they never. So Telstra
What a fuck up.
Telstra have really meticulous meticulous HR records.
Yes.
They can show you every payslip he's ever had,
Yeah.
every leave form he's ever submitted.
That's crazy.
Every uniform he's ever ordered. Everything is in his file. And any disciplinary action he's ever received, like speeding fines, all those things.
Yeah.
There was nothing about this Hollywood. And even Hollywood Hospital don't even have a record of having.
Yeah.
So they just think that
there
They just
was
never did
no
it?
communication between the two of
Yeah.
like it occurring, which
Yeah.
is, again, I mean,
Like,
it's one of
I
those
wonder
things,
if,
isn't it?
Like, would Hollywood Hospital have assumed that the police would do it?
Yeah,
I
this
don't
assumption
know.
of someone reporting this to the other.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I can't imagine that happening today.
No.
Like between a contract like that at any workplace, having someone contracted out to do that, not communicating with that company, and I don't know. It seems like such a balls up there in terms of a point of entry, in terms of this being something, I don't know, would have come if he lost his job. Not to say he wouldn't have perpetrated other crimes, but at least he wasn't having his Telstra, persona of like protection. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because you do
interesting.
trust a person in uniform a
Yeah.
bit, like
Yeah.
somebody who's in
Oh,
in a uniform.
I tell
in
my
any
kids all the
capacity.
time that if you're stuck or anything, you look for
Yeah.
someone in a uniform.
Yep.
Like it's who you look for to help you. Yeah.
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 Because you're representing a company, you think you're going to be on your best behaviour.
Yeah.
Whew.
So the next one that is known to him is then in February 12th, 1995, he abducted and raped a 17-year-old girl in Claremont. So he took her to the Karrakatta Cemetery. And so this was sort of, I think this was the one really broke open the case a little bit. So by 1995, DNA was a little bit more of a thing. This poor girl who went through this, it was horrific, but she did survive it. There was DNA collected at that scene. But it wasn't until, I believe, not 2016 entirely, but probably, I can't remember what year it was, they finally put it in the database.
Oh, I think that was... Oh, I actually think it was early 2016.
Right. I thought
Yeah.
they had him surveilled. Oh, they were already surveilling him, weren't
already
they?
surveilling him.
So, right, they had him on the radar, but separately to that,
Yep.
the DNA from Kira was put into the database, and ping, it went.
It matched.
It matched DNA that was already in the system. Not DNA that they knew who it belonged to,
Correct.
but they were, hang on a second, this DNA has committed other crimes.
Yes.
So from there, it connected it up with this 1995 attack on this 17-year-old girl that there was DNA evidence for. It also connected it up to the 1988 one where the kimono was left.
That's right.
So here they've got this to say, right, there's an escalation in, obviously, in attacks, in that's not murder, but this perpetrator has done more crimes in the past before becoming what they knew as the Claremont serial killer.
That's right.
So basically from this point, they were, as you were saying, they were already had this Bradley Edwards on their radar and had already red flagged in terms of the Telstra stuff. They'd already connected that, had they?
They had. So
Yeah.
what they did was, because they knew that these Telstra... So they started this Telstra Living Witness project. And so they knew based on, I'm talking hundreds of people. I think in the end, maybe 25 or 30 ended up giving evidence in the trial. These so-called Telstra Living Witnesses.
Yeah.
All that means is these are women who were either approached by somebody in a Telstra vehicle, got in a car with a person in a Telstra vehicle, who then lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And what they were able to do was match him, because they knew that this perpetrator drove a Telstra car. They then cross-referenced all Telstra employees who drove this particular type of station wagon. Now, by this stage, with Sarah Spears, he was driving a Toyota Camry station wagon. He then got a new car, which was a VS Commodore Series 1 Holden Commodore station wagon again. Both light-coloured, both with the Telstra logos on them. And, yeah, so they were able to then go, right, we've got a Telstra worker. Which Telstra workers in this who have this particular type of car have a conviction for something else? Let's start there. And they found Bradley Edwards' name because he had already been convicted of the Hollywood Hospital attack
In 1990.
in 1990. So that's what got him on their radar to start with.
That's right.
Then they were surveilling him for a while, and they were like, oh, this guy, there is something a bit odd with this guy, with his movements, with where he's going, because his movements didn't always in fact, often didn't correlate with the job that he was going to.
No, but they had all this tower data too. Because he worked for Telstra, he was always around Claremont, but he was around the cell towers.
Yep.
And so they were able to pinpoint him and his movement for over years of this.
Yep.
It was amazing work that they did in terms of it.
And painstaking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is where these 100 people that were on this macro task force really came to the fore, and they needed all those people to do those jobs.
So they followed him one night to a movie theatre where he had a can or a bottle of Sprite, and he threw that in the bin, and they picked the can out, and they were able to get his DNA profile from that can. They then obviously ran that, and it pinged
bing, bing, bing,
a
bing.
match. So that's how they were like, right, we've got our guy, let's arrest him.
Yep. So that connected him to Kira, which ultimately then connects him to potentially then Jane and Sarah. But it definitely connected him to those previous ones of 1988 and the 1995 attacks where women were survived, but there were assaults.
That's right.
So they originally arrested him and charged him with the 2 murders of Jane and Kira because obviously we don't have a body for Sarah. That makes it a far more challenging case. So they needed to work on that one a bit more before they could charge him. But they could certainly charge him immediately on the 1988 and 1995 attacks as well. It wasn't until 2017 that they finally had enough to be able to place the charge on him for Sarah Spears as well.
Even though the DPP, the prosecutor at the time, she did say that she felt as though they had evidence and they had propensity evidence, which we'll talk about in a minute. They had evidence, but she did understand in presenting this to the court that it may not meet that burden of proof required in order to convict for Sarah. But she had to give it a go.
Yeah,
she
absolutely.
Had to give it a go. They didn't have anything else.
No.
Right. So he's arrested in 2016. A trial date was set for November 2019.
Because at this point he was pleading not guilty to
everything.
every charge, which kind of in some ways blows my mind that he did because
we had DNA
there's DNA
evidence.
and DNA doesn't lie.
Yeah.
That kind of floored me that he was pleading.
But I think because if he pled guilty to those crimes that they had proof for, then he's obviously guilty of the others.
Everything. Exactly.
So, but then also I understand why he ended up doing what he did because his lawyer would have.
Yeah, I'm sure they were like, dude,
you really need to do this.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks before the trial was set to start, he pled guilty to all the non-murder related charges. So he pled guilty to the Karrakatta rape, the attack, the kimono attack, and they were the
only ones he pled guilty to, and then everything else for the murders he pled not guilty.
I think they charged him twice for rape with the 17-year-old Karrakatta case, so it was actually
there was 3 charges that he did plead guilty to.
Yeah,
but still not guilty to the murders. Which I mean, like they had it was an open shut case with the DNA in there, and they had a very strong case, particularly for Kira.
Oh, absolutely.
And then obviously the fact of like if you're guilty for that, high chance of being guilty for the others. So yeah, it was an interesting the trial was so fascinating because the evidence was so strong.
So strong. The trial was a judge-alone trial in the end. So
I love that we last week discussed this, like with the Chris Dawson one, that we said, like there's so few judge-only trials, and then we come to this week and it's another judge-only trial, but they are few and far between.
Very much so. Yeah. But this one was, again, understandable because you wouldn't have been able to find a person in Perth who didn't know the intimate details of all of this.
Yeah.
The other thing that the justice said in granting a judge-alone trial was that the burden on a jury in this case would have been immense. Mm-hmm. So 7 months of their lives, they probably would have had to have been sequestered for that time given the nature of the case.
Yes.
They also, the things they had to see and hear would have caused undue mental stress. Now, I imagine being a juror at the best of times anyway, that is a really horrible thing, potentially, depending on the case, to have to sit through.
Yeah.
But in this case in particular, because there was so much to it and this man inflicted so much pain, and I'm not just talking on his murder victims, I'm talking on the Karrakatta victim, which all came into the fore as well.
Yeah.
So, it was decided that his application for a judge-alone trial was granted, which I think was the right call. So it was presided by Justice Stephen Hall. He is amazing.
Unbelievable, his verdict, yes.
His verdict was
619 pages long was his verdict, which, I mean, when we're just saying that to me, it was fairly clean cut, like this is fairly evident that he was guilty of this. To then write a 619-page document as to why he believed him to be guilty of this is amazing. The unfortunate thing of this is that, yes, he was found guilty of the assaults, the 3 of those, which obviously he pled guilty to, but he was found guilty of the murder of Jane Rimmer and Kira Glennon. Unfortunately, and he stated very clearly in his final verdict that he couldn't find him guilty of the murder of Sarah Spears, but that didn't make him innocent of it. So he just said that there wasn't enough there to be able to convict him of that.
Of proof,
But he very clearly mapped out in his verdict that it was his belief still that he did do it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we need more, and like a body would help. And which he has never to this day come forward on with any information in regards to Sarah Spears. He's not spoken on it at all. So it's awful for her family that they have no outcome. That, I mean, you know who did it. You know who did it.
They feel validated.
Yeah.
So in seeing her family interviewed, they feel validated by the fact that he's in prison.
And kudos to the judge for how he wrote, I think, that verdict. It probably gave them a bit of that, you know. Yeah.
I think they're also really well supported by the families of the other 2 girls.
Oh, yeah.
And they fully see what happened to Sarah in the exact same light as what happened to their family, to their family members as well. So the trial was really interesting in that they were able, because it was a judge-alone trial, they were able to use propensity evidence to convict. And what that means is they were able to introduce, so if there was a jury, they probably wouldn't have been able to do this because it would bias the jury, but you can't bias a judge.
Yes.
So they were able to bring this into evidence that, of the previous rape and attempted rapes and assaults that had come up in his past, went to the propensity for him to then commit a further murder and an escalation of what he'd done in the past.
Yes.
There was also a lot of DNA evidence that was used. So we're talking about Edward's DNA was found under Kira Glennon's thumbnail and middle fingernail. When Paul Jovich, who was the defence lawyer, when he was asked about how that got there, he said, "I don't know."
Did he have a scar on his face still to that day?
He had a mark. I don't know. You can't quite see it.
Right.
But I believe there is a mark there to this day. But there's no close up.
No.
I mean, we don't have court TV. We don't have anything like that in Australia. So
you don't get real great. It's grainy. The photos of him are
coming
usually
in and out of court are terrible.
Yes.
From really far away.
Yeah.
So, but apparently, according to people who've seen him, there is still a mark on his face.
Yeah.
Fucking good.
Well, because obviously there was a big gap between 1997 and 2016 when he's arrested, and there were no further murders in this light. So interesting why it stopped, and there's a lot of sort of ideas around that. One being that he did get married shortly after Kira's murder, which people is taken that maybe the marriage then fulfilled certain desires that he had, and therefore murder, he wasn't seeking it out. Another idea of being that with the ramping up of the police, the media, it spooked him, and the fact then that Kira managed to overpower him at points, obviously to the point where he was injured in that, and got scratched so badly that whether he would have known at that point, oh God, there's evidence now under her fingernails, I don't think that he was cluey enough to put that together and go, that body now contains evidence and links to me. But certainly the idea of oh crap, maybe I could get, have one of these attacks where someone sees me and gets away, that maybe gave him a fright. So therefore he, backed away from some of these attacks.
The prosecution also say that the 3 attacks coincided with 3 emotionally distressing events in his life.
Yes. Yeah.
The first one being the breakdown of his second marriage.
Yeah.
So he was married twice before the perpetration of all of them.
Yeah.
So it's a really weird situation.
Totally.
So his first wife, they just kind of grew apart and whatever, they left and that sort of was what it was. One of the time points, they say that one of the emotionally distressing events was he'd actually gone to spend time with his first wife's family on Australia Day, and he'd invited his ex-wife, first ex-wife, to go and watch the fireworks with him, and she said no. They say that was a bit of a blow to his ego, and that was when he perpetrated the first crime on Sarah
That's crazy,
Smears.
isn't it? That's triggered him enough to go, like, I'm going to murder somebody. Like,
that's right. The second emotion, so this is now for the Jane Rimmer case, the breakdown of his marriage. So this is so fucking weird. This is what his second wife says anyway. He got a computer, as in Bradley Edwards got a computer. And he then would spend a lot of his time on the computer doing fuck only knows what, honestly.
Well, yeah.
And so much so that they weren't spending any time together. And so she then found this bloke who she worked with, and they became friendly, and he had 2 kids, and she owned a horse, I think. And so one day she decided to invite the co-worker and his 2 children to come and ride the horses, and one thing led to another. Next minute, the co-worker has moved into the spare room.
That's right. Oh, I do remember this from the...
And then it gets better. One night, Bradley Edwards had obviously finished doing whatever he was doing on the computer and couldn't find his wife.
Yeah.
And he goes and he walks in on them doing it in the spare bedroom where the workmate's now renting off them.
Yeah.
So the workmate then goes, well, clearly that was a really uncomfortable situation, so I moved out.
Oh, God. Wasn't
Right,
it
so
uncomfortable prior to that?
Oh, yeah,
I don't
weird.
know.
That's what the prosecution say was the second triggering event.
Yeah.
And then the third triggering event, which was around the time, very, very close actually to Kira Glennon's murder, was that the second wife then fell pregnant to her co-worker.
Oh, yeah.
And she just informed him of that pregnancy when Kira went missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're the 3 emotionally distressing events that the prosecution claim were the trigger points for this. And then after that, as you said, he's then remarried again.
Yep.
And I think, up until not long before he went to trial, I think they were
together. Yeah. When it was a strained marriage, from what I could read about what their relationship was like, that there was definitely the third wife, because I believe she testified that he was quite an odd person and that there was aspects of their marriage that wasn't right.
Although she had a daughter.
Yeah, so he had stepchildren in that marriage.
Yes.
And that was the thing. There was sort of this belief that, he married her and became a bit of a family man, because he did have 2 different personalities with this. Like, there was obviously this side of him that he had, had conviction already of like some sexually aggressive behaviors. But in his typical life, day to day, the family man, he was quiet, but unassuming, and so people just assumed he was.
Wasn't he like a little athletics coach or something, like a football?
Yeah,
he was involved.
Got
in
involved with,
community
I think, the third wife's children in that sense, or child. That he was, actively participating in the community. Just makes you go, what? Yeah, big time, absolutely.
The other thing that I really found fascinating during the trial was the fibre evidence.
Yeah.
So there were 98 fibres found on the bodies of Jane and Kira and the 17-year-old rape survivor.
Yeah, all the way back to 1988, the same fibres.
Oh, no, sorry. This is the rape survivor. So the 1995 rape.
Yep.
So they were able to... Now... What was the brand? Hard Yakka, I think it was. They made a special fabric only for Telstra workers in a in a colour they called Telstra Navy.
Mm-hmm.
They never made any other item of clothing.
You couldn't just buy it at a retail shop.
They had this fabric specially made for the Telstra uniforms. You couldn't buy it anywhere else.
Nope.
The fibres that they found were fibres from those particular shorts.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence in the trial goes so specifically into the types of shorts that he ordered, when he ordered them, how many pairs he ordered, how many pairs he had. So we know he had these shorts.
Yep.
They also found fibres in Rimmer, so in Jane and Kira's hair, that matched the seat inserts or the seat coverings in the Holden Commodore station wagon.
Yep.
And fabric from the floor, like the actual carpet floor.
Yeah. Which is amazing when you think about that. This isn't like that he's perpetrated these crimes and a couple of years later they're taking him to trial. 20 years between that occurring and putting that to trial and having that level of evidence is amazing. Amazing police work, an amazing ability to, store that all they're not knowing at the time what they're storing. They had no idea. They were just doing it to one day this was all going to come together, and it did. It really, really did.
Yeah. It's
incredible.
As you said, amazing police work.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So obviously, as we say, on paper, with what he's been convicted of, it looks like he didn't commit other crimes, right? But this is a man who potentially we look at and go, there's potential here that he committed other crimes that we're unaware of. There are 3 particular ones that people look at. There are potentially more than that, but there are 3 other crimes that people look at that really are questionable as to whether or not he could be the perpetrator of these. And they're dotted across the timeline, really. So we've got Julie Cutler, who was 22 years of age, and she was a student who she left the Hilton Hotel in Perth of a function that she was at, and she went missing in 1988. So, I mean, that looks like he obviously perpetrated other crimes in 1988, but so she's never been found again. Another one was Lisa Brown, who was a sex worker, and she went missing in 1998. And there are aspects of her disappearance that link to where he was at the time, and also potentially that, it reads the same way in a lot of ways to the other 3 serial killing murders.
I think this is one of the ones that they sort of think he might be a perpetrator of because they do have that cell phone,
That's
pinpoint.
Exactly. They know where he was, and he was in the area of where she went missing from, which so there's strong evidence there, but not enough to convict and things. So, and then the last one, which is Sarah McMahon, she went missing on November 8th, 2000. So, again, never been found, but again, cell tower information and things like that put him in the area. There's reason to believe that he could be linked to that as well. But he sits in jail and says nothing.
Yeah, so I find it interesting that his defence lawyer, Paul Jovich, did not call any witnesses at trial for him. He also didn't testify, which I totally get.
Oh, yeah.
He should not have testified.
No.
And even in a lot of ways, I think Paul Jovich was quite respectful of the people he was cross-examining. There were many witnesses, especially family members, and the witnesses who had, who he'd pleaded guilty to their crimes, he didn't even cross-examine them.
No.
He chose not to. So I think in the world of defence law, he was actually quite respectful, probably knowing what the outcome was going to be, and just, his job, I guess, was to throw doubt. So his whole case was to basically throw doubt into the DNA evidence, because that was the only thing he had even a slight chance of potentially winning on.
Absolutely.
So what he said was, and this was true, but it wasn't beyond, to the point that was beyond a reasonable doubt. So all of the DNA was tested in a laboratory called PathWest, and some of the DNA was actually contaminated by the scientists who tested it.
Yep.
And so he just used that as an argument to potentially throw doubt, but that didn't discount the fact that Bradley Robert Edwards' DNA was still there. Like, you can be really, really careful but still have, your DNA potentially mix up with something when you're working on a
Yeah.
sample. So that didn't really go anywhere. They didn't have anything else much to defend on.
I mean, you can't argue with then the fibres and, you know, and then witnesses.
They tried to argue the fibres. They had an expert from the US come over, and I think the prosecution had a fibre expert come over, and in the cross-examination of him, they tried to throw doubt into it, but he was really staunch in his testimony. He basically said there is no way this could have come from anything else.
No.
So what do you do with that?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, he rots in jail. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with 40 years non-parole, but the thought is that he will never see the light of day. I highly doubt that if he did actually make it to the age of, what would he be, 90 something?
Something like that.
By the time he is eligible for parole, the case for him to get to gain parole at that point, I think would be pretty slim. I don't think he'll get parole even then. But so he will live out his days in jail.
I hope he's having the worst time ever.
Me too. Suck it. Because he got 20 years roaming the streets after doing those murders, let alone potentially others as well. So, nope. No, mate.
Nah, man. Nope.
Rot in hell.
Absolutely.
Absolute piece of shit.
All right.
Good job.
On that note, what have we got next week?
Next week, looking forward to this one. We are going to be looking at Chappelle Corby.
We might have a little treat in there for you too. Stay tuned.
That one will be I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah. And you know what? This was like one of those cases that divided Australia.
Totally. People have very strong views on this.
Either way. Yeah. It'll be a fun one. A funner one.
Yeah,
to
definitely
research.
funner. And at least there's no death, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you everybody again for joining us. We are just loving putting out this podcast every week. So please keep listening, liking. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so.
Yes.
If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/2crimebesties. Keep sending us
the
stuff.
messages. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Yep. But most importantly, hit that like, follow button on whatever platform you are listening to us on. Rate us, comment, bring it.
Bring it.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, we'll see everyone again next week with our Chappelle Corby story. Stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.